Hi there, my name is Nikhil Kotta, and today I'm here to talk to you about my entrepreneurial experience here with VBS. So let's dive a little bit into what we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about my background because many studies have shown that when you kind of introduce yourself to new people, you'll foster more effective communication and it'll be easier to get your point across. The next thing I want to discuss is my experience with VBS, and then we'll dive into a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So for a little bit about myself, I'm 15 years old. I reside in Plano, Texas, and I'm heavily involved in a lot of clubs like DECA, BPA, and JROTC. And I enjoy cooking and basketball as well. And for a little bit about my family, my parents are both immigrant parents. They were from India and they moved in their early 20s, I'd say. And both my parents have served as waiters in local restaurants in our area for about a decade or a decade and a half. And one important thing to note about my parents that'll really come into play later in the presentation is that they're very creative, innovative, and very personal people. And so in April of 2021, my parents decided to take what a lot of people will call a big leap of faith because they didn't have any business experience, but they decided to quit their jobs as a waiter and decided to open up their own business, a restaurant. And that restaurant was called Aroma Indian Cuisine. And so one important thing to note was that it wasn't their own idea, but rather it was a franchise that was based in Punjab, India, and they decided to open up their own restaurant here in Plano. And so how did this all turn out, you might ask? So quarter two went amazing, okay, because quarter two was the first quarter that we were open during the year. And I think this was successful during this quarter because we have a large Indian population here in Plano, to be honest. And with that, I think we gained a lot of traction because obviously if there was a large population, then there was a high need for a restaurant like this in our area. And we had about $300,000 in revenue that first quarter. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be all sunshine and rainbows because, like I said, my parents had zero business experience and no college degree at this point. And so what I wanted to do is I want to kind of demonstrate to you how it was like to basically go through the business process and make decisions when you don't have a college degree. And so I brought these four cards and one of them has a two in it. And if you were to pick one, your odds are it's not going to be two, it's seven. And then like again, odds are you're not going to pick the two. And it kind of goes on like that. It's almost like taking a multiple choice test when you're in school, but you don't know anything, like if you didn't study, and then you only have a 25% chance of making a good decision. In this case, you're effectively not making good decisions for your business, which can prove to be a financial deficit in the long term. And I think that kind of proved to be very important later on in quarter three and quarter four, as you can see from this graph, because our earnings kind of went down to about 100,000 in quarter three, and in Q4 it was about like 30K. And to move on, in December 22nd, 2021, my parents just decided that this business just turned out to be too big of a liability for them. It was too much time consumed and they weren't making much profit from it. So they decided to sell their business to a friend and they never went back into it. So what I wanted to do is kind of analyze our issues so that we can dive into how VBS helped these issues. And the first thing I noticed was that we didn't really do a good job of choosing the right business ownership because I mentioned earlier in our presentation that my parents are very creative, personable, and innovative people. So they actually do have the creative potential to create their own idea for a business rather than using a franchise. They have more creative room to develop new ideas, etc. And that could really help our business. And the second thing is that they didn't have a deep understanding of financial concepts. They didn't know how to do payroll forms or any accounting things to keep track of the financials of the business. And the third thing is that they had a lack of understanding of competition. I think this is one of the most overlooked things in business because especially in a capitalist economy like America, the success of the business isn't just literally how well your business is, but it's also how much of a market share you have. So it really depends, your success in the business depends on how well other people in the industry are doing, right? And they fail to understand that concept, I feel like, and that's something that VBS will help us with. And so now let's dive into my experience with VBS. So you're going to be asking yourself, how did we overcome this dire financial situation at hand, right? And yeah, the answer to that is the VBS. And so what is VBS? You might be asking yourself. And of course, pretty sure both of you know, but to recap, anyways, it's founded by Peter Jordan in Massachusetts. And it, to put it simply, simulates businesses and the surrounding businesses in that area online. And one of the biggest things that makes it so great is that it's risk-free. That is truly a big benefit because the only other alternative to something like this is if you started a business in real life, but the downside to that is that you could be wasting money, you could be wasting time and throw yourself into a financial deficit. And actually another thing is that there's no installations required. So you can just run it straight from your browser. It's very, very easy and very user-friendly. And so you're probably asking yourself, what does the VBS do? Well, they have multiple tracks to learn from. So for example, if you wanted to learn more about entrepreneurship, you could do that. If you want to learn more about accounting, you can do that. If you want to learn more about retail, you can do that too. So there's really a multitude of options in the business field that you can learn from. And basically how it works is that you basically interact with the software and it allows you to see a business run from start to scratch, your business. And what this allowed for my parents, I feel like, is that they were able to pick up literal years worth of business information in just a few weeks because the way it was condensed into just one software, one platform was very nice, very user friendly. And so what did VBS do for my family specifically? Well, I mentioned those three issues a couple of minutes ago of not knowing what business ownership to use, not understanding financial concepts, and not understanding our competition in our area. And I think VBS did a phenomenal job of just solving all three of these issues and providing more benefits for us starting a new business in the long term. And so, for example, in order to solve the issue of what form of business ownership we should have had, VBS provides a multitude of options in describing which form of ownership is which. So for example, in our situation, because my parents were both owners, meaning we would have two owners of the business, by using VBS, I'd be able to determine that we should have opened up a partnership rather than a sole proprietorship or a corporation. As you can see, it does a phenomenal job of just outlining all the differences, the key points, and the negatives of each form of ownership so that you can get a better understanding of what to choose for your business. And the second thing it did is it allowed us to have a thorough understanding of financial concepts. As you can see, this is a part in the simulation where you've already established your business and now you're performing financial actions for your business. So you have the opportunity to run through how much you want to save. Do you want to take a bank loan? How much venture capital or equity you have. And these are all things that are going to affect your business. So you get the opportunity to see how this runs from start to finish and how this affects your business in the long term. So you get to understand what decisions will positively impact your business and what decisions will not positively impact your business. And the last thing it did for us is that it helped us understand our competition. I think one of the biggest things in the simulation that separates it from any other alternative is the fact that not only does it show you how your business is running, but it also shows you the area around it. It literally shows you the whole city. And so, for example, here, if you were the owner of my pizza place in the middle of the screen, you also know that there's Post Catering and other food restaurants located throughout. And so you'll know how your competition is doing, which is really vital to success in the competition. Because like I said, success in the business always depends on how much share of the market you have in order to increase your profitability. And so coming back to that card example, what I wanted to demonstrate is that what VBS did for us is it almost took those four cards and it took two of them away from us. It allowed us to kind of see through it better and think more thoroughly for those decisions. And it was a lot easier now. Instead of having a quote unquote 25% chance of picking a good decision for our business for the long term, we had more of a 50% chance, is what I'd like to think of it as. And that really helped us for sure. And so what were the key takeaways here? So although my parents sold their business to someone else, they ended up actually getting their bachelor's degree over the next year or two. And this year they are starting their new company called Think IT. Their degree was in IT. And another thing is that it really fostered an entrepreneurial passion for myself. I know for sure I want to go into the entrepreneurship field. I want to create some product or maybe open up my own restaurant, just like my parents did, and hopefully do better than they did. With the experience I've gained from VBS. And so let's think about VBS on a larger scale here. I think not only did it help my family, but it can help a lot of other families across not only America, but across the world. Because if you think about it, many underprivileged people, just like my parents, because they were born in India, a third world country with not as many resources, those people don't have access to college, or if they're women in third world countries such as India, they might not be promoted to go to college. And what the simulation does is it provides them an opportunity to really just gain experience with the business world so that they can maybe perhaps open up their own business in the future. And I'd like to thank Knowledge Matters for the opportunity to present my findings and my story here. And thank you for your time.